Welcome to the Love Your Life and Yourself podcast, the weekly show where science meets soul and mom chaos meets mind mastery. You're not just a mom. You're a woman with dreams, a career, a body that needs care, and a soul that craves more. This podcast is your permission slip to stop surviving and start thriving in motherhood, health, career, and stress resilience. I'm your host, Dr. Ashley Rath, and every week we bring you actionable insights and transformative conversations to help you create a life you truly love. From evidence-based wellness strategies to authentic self-discovery, we'll explore what it takes to thrive through expert interviews and real unfiltered stories. Let's dive into today's episode. I am so excited for today. Welcome to Love Your Life and Yourself podcast. I have had the honor to walk alongside of our guest today for the last 7.5, 8 years.
Mhm.
And she is near and dear to my heart. I probably spend more time with her than I do my husband. And we have Lauren Tonn. She's a wife, a mom, and a woman who's done some deep work. So after losing 80 pounds this last year and a half, not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, she's here to share what it really looks like to stop apologizing for who you are and start owning your own story. 80 pounds shed. Lauren, this question is probably very powerful for you now that you're on the other side of this new you. But what does loving your life and yourself mean to you right now?
Um, so I was thinking about this question earlier today and what it looked like for me. And if you were to have asked me that question a year and a half ago, I probably would have had a very, very different answer. And I feel like just like the what this podcast is all about, it has become for me to really just own who I am now in this phase of life, not worrying about um, when I reach that goal, who I am, 5 years from now, but really just being present with where I'm at in each phase of my journey, whether it's weight loss, motherhood, my career, and just really owning who I am, not apologizing for being too much, being too big, um, and just learning to really truly honor who I am now and who I was, and just really loving each journey and phase of
Mm-hmm.
life.
So we're going to get into the nitty-gritties of your journey, but take us back. Take us back to you a year and a half ago. It's obviously so much more than 80 pounds that you've lost. And bring us back to the beginning. So what was life like? What was that aha moment where you're like, you know what, this is my stake in the ground. Like, I'm done. Like,
Mhm.
I got to change something.
So prior to losing weight this time, I had lost weight before, gained weight, lost weight, gained weight, and was just never happy. And I feel like I would lose weight and I would let life get in the way and weight would come back. And I just had this very unhealthy view on health and weight loss and what that looked like. And now I have 3 kids and I was getting to the point where I couldn't run and play with my kids. I couldn't keep up with my kids. I couldn't, it was a lot of work just to get on and off the floor and I felt myself just becoming less and less of the mom that I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, I don't think there's one specific moment that I can pinpoint that really, was the change. It was a lot of compounded feelings, moments, things that happened. And I think it was honestly timing because while I was, hitting a rock bottom as a mom and in my own health, I was presented the opportunity to coach with a health coach and it kind of came out of nowhere. And so I think that the timing, just everything aligned well. And I remember asking my husband, because it was an investment in myself. And up until then, it had been really hard for me to invest in myself. And so I remember asking him, like, should I do this? Can we do this? And I remember him saying that if he would support me in whatever I chose, but just to make sure that I was really ready to commit to myself. Um, and for whatever reason, I was. And so I had a lot of doubt going into it because I felt like I had failed a lot in the past and it had just become a cycle. And I had hit my rock bottom and I dove in and committed. And here we are a year and a half later.
Oh, I love that. And I think it's super fascinating. We see this a lot in the office when, you put some investment and some money
Mhm.
behind it, how
Mhm.
much more likely, and
Yeah.
there's actually research on it too of like how much more likely you're going to be successful. So there is something to actually investing, paying the gym membership
Yeah.
or paying the health coach
Mhm.
or paying the functional med practitioner, whatever it is. There is definitely, when you have some skin in the game,
Yeah,
it holds you a bit more accountable.
for sure.
So you've mentioned, so we were actually just talking at lunch. We had lunch before this conversation here. And we were talking about emotional eating and having it being a big part of your story and how it kind of really dated back to your childhood and
Mhm.
how, some challenging childhood things with your mom and dad divorcing, etc., how that really shaped your relationship. Can you walk us through like that role that food had and your body image and and how that like worked within your identity? um what did that look like and where did all this kind of stem from as we were chatting?
So I feel like I have struggled with food. I mean, I can remember it way back into my childhood. And I don't know that I can't remember a time that I had a healthy perspective or view on food. And like you said, when I was young, my parents went through a divorce and there was a lot of instability in my childhood. And I didn't have good coping mechanisms on how to handle these things. And so I love food. And still to this day I love food. I really enjoy food. It brings me joy. And I I think that that was the one thing that I had that gave me joy, even if it was only temporary.
Mhm.
It brought me joy. It was something I had control over. I could, decide what I ate, how much I ate. And eventually it just kind of became this unhealthy cycle of, binging essentially. If I was sad, I ate a bunch of food. If I was depressed, I ate a bunch of food. If I was mad, happy, whatever, um, food was always like my fail-safe comfort. And
Mhm.
so when things were out of control in life, I could control what I ate. And it got to the point where I had no self-control. And so no matter what emotion I was feeling, food was always
Your
my
friend.
coping
Yeah.
mechanism. Yep, food was always there when other people weren't. And so that obviously did not add much self-confidence in body image. And so I think that, it got to the point where I gained so much weight and I had this unhealthy relationship with food. And so that's just how it was. That was just how I lived. That was just the normal. And I didn't know how to fix it. So it just kept going until it got to the point that it became like a real health issue.
Mhm.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to me from like a human behavior standpoint how even when we're, little and not even understanding why we're doing the things that we're doing, is really kind of a survival mode. And
Mhm.
I mean that goes into adulthood and we just kind of get hardwired from a neurological standpoint. And it's not until that awareness of like, holy crap, I'm not healthy anymore. I'm not the
Mhm.
mom I want to be anymore. I'm not the wife. I'm not the woman that God designed me to be.
Mhm.
Like, I'm supposed to honor my body. And so it's really fascinating to me how even into adulthood, and some of you listeners may not have any, childhood trigger like that. But for many, it's still a coping mechanism. I
Mhm.
mean, I didn't realize until I personally started tracking how much more I was emotionally eating when and not that, I feel like I had some self control, but I definitely chose more unhealthy foods when I wasn't feeling good.
Mhm.
So to start to become aware of those triggers, I think is huge.
And I feel too, at least for me, you feel like I remember thinking, I'm not gonna binge, I'm not gonna overeat, I'm not gonna do XYZ. But, when you walk into the kitchen every 20 minutes and you grab 2, 3 chips at a time or, a handful of candy, it might not feel like you're
Mhm.
overeating or binging, but you're just doing it in a different way. And so I think that awareness too for me, has made a huge difference.
So, speaking of like kind of stepping into this new version, so what are some of the lies or stories you had to let go of to really fully step into this new version? Because, I mean, like you said in the past, you had lost 100 pounds before,
Mhm.
gained most of it back. And so you've been in these yo yos, which a lot of women do. Like
Yeah.
they'll lose weight, but they can't keep it off. So, what was that story that you had to let go of?
I think, too, that it's not even, obviously I've learned more about nutrition and working out and things like that. That has really made this transformation possible. But I think even more so, the most important thing has been the mindset thing. And I think up until the last year and a half, and it's still something I struggle with, my life's theme was that I'm not good enough. I'm not worth change. I'm not worth the effort because it has been. It's been a lot of work to,
Mhm.
you know, make this change. And so I think that I had just, and a lot of this even stems back to childhood. I think that I had just convinced myself that I wasn't worth enough or not good enough. I wasn't able to do these things. And even, after losing 100 pounds, still feeling that way because I had gained it back. And so um, that was something that I really had to work on reframing because I am good enough. I am capable of doing these things. I am worthy of change and being healthy and happy, and so I didn't have anybody in my head trying to convince me otherwise, but subconsciously I was convincing myself that all of these negative things were true, and it was really holding me back in actually being successful and, having a sustainable life of health. And so I had to really work on reframing those negative thoughts and really just believing that I am capable of these hard things and I am worth, the time, effort, money, whatever of this new life. And I mean, that is still something that I struggle with sometimes, on those hard days that inner voice still tries to sneak in, but she's slowly getting quieter and that louder new version of me is getting louder every day.
What were the what were the actual tools you use? You mentioned mindset, like
Mhm.
in which mindset is huge. Like I'm a huge fan of changing your mindset, but I feel like it's also gotten like it's the word a whole bunch of people like, "Oh, you can't change until you change your mindset." So like
Mhm.
what was that were your like tangible things that you can that like help to change really it's those thoughts that kind of create the emotion creates the action creates the result. But what did you have to do to start switching that mindset?
So I started coaching with my coach, and I think I think it was months into coaching before these changes started to happen. Um, I just because I had invested the time and the money, I was like, well, if I've invested this much money, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to do it
Mhm.
right. I'm going to follow the recommendations. And so at first, when I first started, it felt like, this is just another cycle where I'm going to lose a bunch of weight and it's all going to come back. And so the more I started doing the work and noticing the changes, the more it became easier to, believe these new things. And so, and you and I have talked a lot about this stuff in the past before too. It it honestly, like, when I first started, I was not super positive about things. And so the more I, started making these changes, losing weight, feeling better, the more I wanted to keep working towards that goal.
Mhm.
And
Habits
so
habit stacking.
yes. And I also learned that and maybe this is just my opinion, but motivation is bullshit. Because motivation will fail you. It's temporary. It's not something that can
Mhm.
sustain
Mhm.
anything. And so
And actually results give you the motivation, but
mhm,
to get the results, you actually have to do something
yes.
before you get the results.
And
So
so it was a daily thing where I had to wake up and I had to consciously choose myself. I had to wake up and say,
mhm.
this is what I have to do today. And so the more consistent I became in my tracking, my workouts, my walking, my water, the easier it was to keep doing those things because I felt better. I had more energy. And then people started noticing that, not only
Mhm.
that I had lost weight, but just that, just me, like I was just different. And so honestly, it was a conscious decision every morning to wake up and choose myself and, this is what I have to do today. I have to do this at this time, this time, this time, and just really, you know, dedicating to myself and what I was working towards. And then, as we got further into, you know, training and whatnot, it became more of mindset. And then it was, when I had those crappy thoughts that were trying to sneak in and take the rug out from under me.
Like what?
Um, as I started losing weight, I would catch myself thinking, even after I had lost, we'll say 30 pounds, I would catch myself thinking, well, I'm going to be even better when I've lost 50 pounds, or I'm not good enough because I've only lost 30 pounds. And so I was completely discounting all the work I had done, all of the things I had accomplished, and again, not feeling like what I had done was enough. And so I took pictures, I took videos, measurements, I tracked all the data. And when I had those days, the pictures and all of those were my motivation because they were an easy way to look back at where I had started versus where I had come from or where I
Mhm.
had come to. And so I would say, yeah, just really, it was a very conscious decision every day and it still is. Because it would be really easy to fall back into where I
Yeah.
was a year and a half ago, and so every
And
d
so, working out comes super easy to you. You always
mhm.
wanna do it every
Well,
day,
no. No,
right?
that's
Like
where discipline and dedication come into play.
so that's the other thing, right? Like, you need to I think that's part of the mindset is people think like, "Oh," like you just I guarantee any person who is at the peak of their performance, like, you think about any high level, they don't wanna practice every day.
Yeah.
They don't wanna work
Mhm.
out every day. They
Yep.
don't wanna they wanna probably eat crappy every now and then, which is okay. I'm not, now we were actually talking about perfectionism, which we'll get there, but just knowing that, like, you're gonna have unmotivated days,
Mhm.
and you still gotta show up.
Yep. And that for me, that's my thing. Like, it's and I put this in a lot of my posts that I make that it's about showing up not only on the hard days, but especially on the hard days
Yeah.
because those are the days when you need it the most. And for me, it's just, that's been a huge learning curve because it's really easy to make excuses. And so it's also for me been about identifying the difference between making excuses for not working out and honoring, if my body needs rest. And so the excuses are really, really loud in your head sometimes. And sometimes we just have to turn the volume down and do it
Mhm.
anyway, especially on those days when the excuses are at top volume.
Oh, yeah, I know that. I also wanna touch on the perfectionism. We're going into we were talking about this at lunch, so we're gonna kinda repeat this conversation between you and I, but
Mhm.
we'll put a fly on the wall for all you listeners, but we're going into a holiday weekend this weekend, and there is, in my personal experience, and I think you, Lauren, is there's a lot of food, a lot of treats,
Mhm.
a lot of indulgent environments. And for us, I don't cook every meal, thankfully. We kind of rotate meals. So there's some things that are just out of our control. Where's this nice dance between um doing your best and then life?
I feel like it's different for everybody. And for me, I think that's part of why I haven't been sustainably successful in the past is
Mhm.
I recently made a post about this as well, the all or nothing mindset and how it completely sabotages everybody because when you're in this journey of weight loss or whatever it is, you
Getting fit, getting
yes,
strong,
yep.
cleaning up your diet, even like in a non-physical form, like in mental emotional health,
Mhm.
like
And literally anything.
anything.
Yep.
Yep.
It's easy, you're working towards a goal, and so every day that you are doing all the things, you're getting closer to that goal. And that's not a sustainable way to live when you're always working on everything 100% of the time. And so for me, that was me for a long time is I need to work out 5 days a week and I need to eat 100%, 100% of the time and it slowly kills a person. It makes it hard to sustain these things,
Mhm.
because you just get tired and burnt out, and there's no life. And if you're not, you're working towards joy in life, but if you're not, at what point are you happy with where you are, where you actually get to enjoy the joy in the life?
Mhm.
If all you're doing, because I feel like we're always working towards something. We reach a goal, and then there's a new goal. And if we're always 100% of the time working towards a goal and not enjoying the process, of reaching that goal, then what's the point in doing these things? And so for me, for example, this weekend, and I had told her like I am 34 years old. I got back down to a new low again this morning, and now I'm going to go into this weekend and eat, probably more than I normally would, and drink, a couple drinks and whatnot. But I'm 34 years old. I have all the time in the world to work towards my goal. If I take 4 days to enjoy time with my family, it's not going to completely destroy all the progress that I've made. And so you have to be okay with, those, I don't even want to call them setbacks, but those pauses
Yeah,
in the journey, because if you're not enjoying the process, then when are you actually going to enjoy anything?
I would agree. I 100% agree, and that's why I asked that question because I knew she knew the answer of where I was going with it. But, uh that's huge to me. I think, there's such a mindset, even in motherhood, of this, like, perfectionism, and maybe social media plays a huge role. I know it does. But this, like, "Oh my gosh, if everything isn't just 100%, like, why do it at all?" So it's either all or nothing, and I'm gonna literally die on that, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And it's so much more than that. It's so much more than just, all or nothing. Like, 80% of the time, I always say 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, you are pretty clean. Like, you're eating clean, you're working out, you're exercising, etcetera. And then 20% I always say 20% of the time you're living.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean you go hog shit crazy and eat, like, 4 boxes
Yeah.
of Oreos
Right.
and 3 bags of Doritos. Like, yes, you can still indulge in moderation,
Yeah.
and still have this, like, very fulfilling, happy life without going
Yeah.
back 47 steps. You might not be going forward 100 steps, but you're not going backwards. Like,
Mhm.
and so I think there's this beautiful dance in the gray that I think so many people get hung up on. They're like, "Oh, I ate like crap this weekend. I might as well just go back to my old ways. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, like you can start over. You don't even have to
Yeah.
wait for the next day. You
Right.
can start over the next meal.
Yep.
Like I just think that perfectionism mindset is so real, especially for women. And maybe it's men too. I just hang out with women more than men. And you talked about it so well. So what would you tell people that are listening who really feel stuck in their body, and maybe her story, and they don't really know where to start?
For me, I think that no matter what change you want to make, whether it's weight loss, career, relationships, the biggest foundation of starting a new journey with any of those things is why, finding your why,
Mm,
because your why is your purpose. And if you don't know what that is, what are you working for? So for me, now having kids, like we were just talking, in 40, 50 years, however many years, I want to be able to get down on the floor with my grandkids and pick my grandkids up. I want to be able to go run the bases at T-ball with my 5-year-old. Um, and now, like new this year, I'm wearing a swimsuit and not worrying about what people are thinking.
that's so
And
huge.
so it is. And so that is my why. Not only am I working, towards these things for myself, but for my kids, because I don't want my kids to, in 30 years, not have a mom anymore. And so, I mean, to me, that's a pretty huge why. And on the hard days when I'm struggling and maybe, feeling myself slipping back, that is that's my reminder to
Mhm,
keep going. And so I think identifying your why and then identifying, what are the top 3 things that I could do right now to start working towards your next goal. Is it hiring a coach? Is it going to therapy? Is it, finding a new job? I feel like,
mhm,
once you getting clarity on what that looks like, because you could know, like, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds. What steps do I need to do to get there? And maybe the first step is, um, you know, for a coach or, getting a membership at the gym. And so obviously it's going to be different for everybody. But if you're stuck, you don't have to be. You just have to have a why strong enough to
mhm.
move forward and then not be afraid to get uncomfortable because I get uncomfortable a lot these days.
That's a good thing. You're stepping into
It
that.
is. It is.
I love that. The why, and going deeper into why, you talk about your kids and, the lifestyle that you grew up in, and I actually heard it, I think, on a TikTok, but it hit home with me. It said, "Any of the shit that you don't deal with, your kids are going to have to."
Mhm.
And you stopped that generation. You made a different choice to show up healthy. And now your kids, like I was telling her, I grew up in a very stable home where food was food. That's it. It was there to nourish our bodies. We didn't attach anything to it. It was there for fun, for social gatherings, but it was also there for nourishment. We grew up on a farm, so we had a lot of beef and we had chicken. So we ate like my mom always prioritized the protein, and then anything else just kind of filled it with a vegetable. We did have a vegetable with every meal, which wasn't my favorite as a kid, but it taught me, like I was telling her, like it was so interesting to hear people's stories because I know I am not the norm. Like
Mhm.
that is not
Yeah.
normal for people to grow up in a stable household and eat protein for every meal. And I'm very spoiled when it comes to that aspect because I don't have to relearn that as an adult, but you realize as you get healthier, it's for your kids, but it's also for your grandkids. You're
Mhm.
teaching
Yeah.
them how to fuel their kids. You're
Yeah.
teaching them how to cope with stress. You're
Yeah.
teaching them that they're worth it and they're beautiful and they're strong and they're healthy. Like you are so much more than just the food.
Mhm.
It's such a powerful lesson that we see trickle down into multi generations. And if you can make us like put a stake in the ground and decide, you
Mhm.
know what, I'm getting healthy, I'm going to set my hormones straight, I'm going to get fit, I am going to get strong, like I'm cleaning up my nutrition, not just for me. Yes, that should be your priority for you, but what is this going to do for the next generation and
Mhm.
generations to come?
Yeah.
Because really, it is at minimum of 3 generations that you're affecting.
Yeah, and these days, my girls will ask me, "Mom, does this have protein in it? Does this have protein in it?"
And
'Cause
how old are they?
3, 5, and 8.
Yeah, they're young.
Almost,
Like, they
so
understand the value of
yeah,
protein already. Like
and it's been really cool too because, now that I, am going through certifications and learning more, and I've gone through my journey so far, I am able to teach these things. Like, my mom and I have really great conversations about these things, and it's just she's one of my biggest cheerleaders, and so it's really fun to kind of, teach these things to the people that I care about and,
mhm.
to friends, and so it's been really fun to see my family support me and get behind me, but not only that, but my girls especially because they are my absolute biggest cheerleaders, but, they get really excited. They work out with me and
Mhm.
they love protein smoothies, and so, yeah, it's really cool to start instilling that in them and know that, they know how important all of these things are.
Yeah. My boys too say the same thing. "Ugh, Mom, I just want an unhealthy snack. I don't want one with protein in." I'm like, "Well, too
Which is
bad."
okay sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. We have unhealthy snacks sometimes, and that's okay. They also know that they need to have protein for snacks too,
Mhm,
and they know
mhm.
which food is protein. So
Yeah.
it's super fun to see. I mean, they're little sponges. So yeah. So on the other side, and you're still going, still getting stronger,
Mhm.
still getting more fit as we all are, right? Like, isn't that the goal to just keep on unlayering that onion that is never ending? But what brings you joy now? And you can be as vulnerable as you want that
Hon
didn't before.
honestly, um, life.
Mm,
I feel like I spent so much of my life pretending to be happy, pretending to be okay, pretending to have joy, which is exhausting. And now I can truly say that it really there really is joy. Um, and so it's there's just a whole different perspective on life now. Life is brighter. Life, there it's easier to find the good things now than it was before. And another one would be, so obviously food has always brought me joy, but it brings me joy in a different way now. Before it brought me joy when I was sad. It was that temporary, almost like a high.
mhm, like a
And
drug.
so, yep. And so it brought me that temporary joy. But now I have joy knowing that I know what foods it needs. I know how to fuel my body, nourish my body to be able to have joy in life. Like,
Mm.
there's just a different view, a different perspective on food and, what its purpose is. And I do think that there is a purpose in food for joy. I mean,
Oh,
there wouldn't
absolutely.
be good foods if we weren't meant to enjoy them. But being able to find that balance and, have that healthy relationship or perspective on food makes such a big difference. And so there's just I think that overall just life in general is just a lot more joyful.
Mm, that makes my heart happy. So what are you up to now?
Um, I wanna help other people do what I do. I just got certified by, the National Academy of Sports Medicine as a certified personal trainer, and next I'll be working on nutrition. And honestly, if I can help, 1, even 2 people have joy in life again, the whole journey was worth it.
Mm,
And I mean, honestly, I strive to be as vulnerable and raw and uncomfortable as I can, because I wish that there was more of that when I was starting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this journey would have happened a lot sooner if people weren't sugarcoating everything and were willing to open up and be uncomfortable and vulnerable and share the nitty-gritty shitty stuff, because that's what people relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And so my next goal is to keep doing what I'm doing for myself, but also start to spread that to
Yeah.
other people.
So she is being humble right now, but she is a health coach and is coaching women how to do that. So where can they find you? You're pretty active on Facebook, right?
Yeah, I post a lot on like my personal Facebook page, but then I also and I'm sure it'll change as I kind of, start getting into the coaching side of things, but I have a Facebook page called Strong as a Mother, and I post a lot of my stuff on
Mm-hmm.
that as well. But I mean, either you can find me there or reach out to me on my Facebook page, or I'm, obviously at the office as well. And so there's a few different places to find me.
Cool. And all of those links will be in the show notes, etc. So, um, do you want to, if you could give the audience one more piece of advice, what would it be?
Choose yourself.
Mm.
It's hard. It's really hard. But choosing yourself is what makes the difference, and not being afraid to be too much, be too loud, stand up, be who you are. And the more you do that and the more you fully lean into that and believe that, the easier it is to spread light and love. And essentially, the more people that are able to do that, the more it trickles and the more joy the world has. And so don't be afraid to take up space. And if people try and convince you that you shouldn't, maybe they're not the people that should be in your life. And so choose yourself always and spread love.
Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Love Your Life and Yourself. I hope today's episode gave you one more tool or one more truth to help you thrive in your health, happiness, and resilience. Remember, loving yourself isn't selfish, it's leadership. And it's the foundation for building a life that actually feels like yours. If this spoke to you, hit that follow button, leave a review, and send it to a friend who needs to hear it. And if you want to dive even deeper, grab a copy of my #1 best-selling book, Love Your Life and Yourself. It's the heart behind this podcast, and it's helped thousands of women step into a life they actually love. You can find it at drashleyrath.com or through the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care of you and keep choosing to love your life and yourself.